Hey, this is the Amateur Logician. How are you? In my last video, I provided a very brief introduction to modal logic. We discussed not only modal propositions, but what grounds contingency. What is it that grounds possibility? This video will continue to introduce the metaphysical distinction between what is called potentiality and actuality, that is, between act and potency. And if we're serious about understanding contingency and what is possible, we really cannot escape this very vital distinction. Things in reality have capacities. They have a reality to be what they are, but also to be something different from what they are. We reside in a universe that changes. For example, water has the capacity to be a liquid, or to be frozen, etc. Now I want to reference from the outset 3 really good books. First, an old book, which is a great reference to have, and I'm going to create a video on this soon, Dictionary of Scholastic Philosophy. It has various terms defined, it has great tables in it and charts. I really like it. And in the last video, I talked about Dr. Gorman's recent book. It's really a new book, Contemporary Introduction to Thomistic Metaphysics. It's quite good. Perhaps most importantly, really, in my mind, is Dr. Edward Feser's Scholastic Metaphysics, A Contemporary Introduction. That book is quite rigorous, and there's a lot of depth to it, a lot of great argumentation. So if you really want to dive deep into actuality and potentiality, I highly recommend that book. And I'm using that book in part to help shape this video that you're watching presently. Okay, so we're thinking about, for example, potency or potentiality. So potency is the same thing as potentiality. We're really using those two terms interchangeably. We're thinking about what is possible. You exist, for example. There are many attributes that you have actually. You can also change in various ways. You have potential. When we're thinking about possibility, we have two distinctions. We have pure and logical possibility, and then we have real potentiality, real possibility, real potency. Pure and logical possibility covers anything that is possible without violating the laws of logic. It deals with what is not contradictive. For example, a squared circle has no pure and logical possibility. It cannot exist, period. End of story. And in traditional logic, a squared circle is called a repugnant concept, because we have attributes that are logically incompatible with each other. They cancel each other out. There's no possibility to create a squared circle. There's no possible reality to a squared circle. A squared circle cannot exist, period, end of story. Now, logical possibility simply just cannot be a repugnant concept. More narrow is a real potency, a real potentiality. You and I don't have a real potency to naturally grow wings to fly, for example. Real potency is grounded in our nature. It's not just about what's logically possible. Real potency concerns the things in reality that can change or come to be given what is, so to speak, actually out there in reality in accordance with the nature of things. And we talked a bit about that in the last video when I was referencing this great book by Dr. Gorman. Note that what is called act or actuality is what is real. It's about what is in existence right now, what is present now. For example, the water in front of me is in liquid form. It is actually liquid, but it is potentially a solid. Now, potentiality as potentiality is merely potential. It cannot do anything because it doesn't have actuality to do anything. This implies that potentiality is grounded in actuality. And this is a very important point. For example, you, having actuality, also have the potentiality to grow in size by eating fast food every day. That potentiality of a larger size can become an actuality. You, having actuality, can change the color of your hair. That potentiality of dyeing your hair green is grounded in the actuality of having hair and the actuality of the green dye. No potentiality alone can do anything. Therefore, any potentiality is defined in its relation to actuality. In other words, potentiality is grounded in actuality. And therefore, any potentiality can only become actualized by what is already actual. The liquid water becomes frozen water by actual cold air, for example. Again, it's important for us to understand that real potencies are grounded in actualities. Actual things have natures. They have defining characteristics, making them be what they are. And they have potencies. That is, limited dispositions to be otherwise. I have the potential to grow in size by eating fast food every day, but I don't have the potential to naturally grow wings to fly. Now, real potency can be subdivided into active potency and passive potency. Now, passive potency is basically the capacity to be affected. Active potency is the capacity to do something. So we might just say capacity to do. Now, with passive potency, you and I have the passive potency to be bruised, for example. Again, active potency is the capacity to bring something about. You and I, for example, have the active potency to walk. And active potency is subdivided into uncurated active potency and curated active potency. Uncurated active potency really is just pure actuality when you get down to it. So we can say this is pure act, pure actuality. It's an unlimited power to do. In traditional metaphysics, we can logically argue that there needs to be one unrelenting being itself that is purely actual. All other active potencies are curated active potencies. They ultimately depend upon an unlimited metaphysical foundation that is pure act, purely actual. Now, when we're thinking about passive potency, we'll subdivide this into the agent, which brings about, and the thing that has it. This is how Edward Fazer divides things up in his book, for instance. In terms of the thing that has it, we can consider the passive potency in relation to the essence of the object or its existence. In fact, having a passive potency implies that the object need not be. That is to say, need not exist. Indeed, the essence of something is in potency to having existence. That essence is actualized by existence. For example, I have the essence of a rational animal. An essence is a nature. There is no necessity in that essence to exist. So that essence as such is in potency until actualized to exist. And when thinking about the essence of something, we can think about that in terms of what is called prime matter and then secondary matter. These are rather technical to give the full details. In any case, the prime matter is a reception to take on a form or essence. It's receptive in a total sense, and is something that only, so to speak, exists in the abstract. Basically, in metaphysics, prime matter is derived in a logical proof concerning what's called substantial change. When a substance transforms to become another substance, the underlying continuity of the change is via prime matter. And prime matter is a kind of pure potency to take on substantial forms. But going into that is for another video. The secondary matter is matter that has taken on substantial form. It is, so to speak, the configured matter of the object in question, and that matter itself will limit the potency of the object in various ways. That matter can be changed this way, but not that way. A baseball's matter is configured in a way to make it a baseball, and that matter is limited in how it can change and cannot change into something else. In regard to the agent which brings about an effect as a passive potency, traditionally, this has been subdivided into natural passive potency and supernatural obediental passive potency. So, for example, a natural potency is something we can do ourselves. It's just built into our nature as such. You and I can learn about God, for example. We can reason. But in the Christian tradition, the effects of baptism go beyond the nature of water. Then there's the divisions between actuality or act itself. Now, there's nothing that can only be purely potential. Potentiality as such would have nothing real about it. There's no actuality. It's metaphysically and logically incoherent to think about pure potentiality. Potentiality, so to speak, is dependent or parasitic on actuality. On the other hand, there's nothing metaphysically and logically incoherent about pure actuality or pure act. Pure actuality would have no limits in potentiality. Indeed, in scholastic metaphysics, it's argued that there must be one and only one purely actual being for there to be any beings with potency at all. Except for one being, other beings must be a mixed act. That is, beings which are actual in some ways and potential in some other ways. Beings that are a mixture of act and potency. Yet, insofar as we're considering these mixed acts, we can think of the act as an operative act or an entitative act. An operative act is something's present activities, whereas entitative act is something's present status in a static-like presence. An entitative act is subdivided into the essential act and the existential act. The essential act is what the thing is. That is what its nature is. The existential act is that it is, so to speak. That is to say, it is in terms of existence. It is something that has existence and is hence in act with existence. The essential act, we could think of the substantial form and the accidental form. The substantial form, also known as first act, is what makes it be what it is. The accidental form, also called second act, is a modification of an existing substantial form. So, I'm a substantial form as a man, but my height is an accident modifying my substantial form. Obviously, the accident is totally dependent upon the substance, namely me. Now, when studying traditional logic and traditional metaphysics, we can unpack a lot about reality. Reality really opens up to us in ways that studying physics, chemistry, or math alone cannot. A classical education to become an educated man or woman, is a part of my mission here as the amateur logician. And if you too want to go after the true, the good, and the beautiful, to think more logically about reality, to think more holistically about reality, and not too narrowly in the specialized sciences, to think philosophically, logically, metaphysically, consider joining me in this adventure. Consider supporting my website by buying me a cup of coffee. Visit my website at amateurlogician.com. I have an extensive tutorial on traditional verbal style logic there, which I created a year ago. Well, I guess a little bit more than a year ago. I have many videos on this YouTube channel, various playlists, and I want to continue this YouTube channel, but it is work, and I would appreciate some support if you can. If you do enjoy this material and you want to see more of it, if you want to see me develop another logic course, let me know. I am trying to get back into creating a traditional logic course, or at least semi-traditional logic course soon. I have a series on René Descartes. I have a series on some economics here. There's a lot going on. Feel free, as always, to leave a comment below. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much for your viewership, and be well.